Occasionally, in a Cathy Glass book, there will be a social worker or somebody involved in the social services who just doesn't seem to see the wood for the trees. And that annoys me, but not so much that it hinders my enjoyment. Then we get I Miss Mummy, which I've read before, but I'm currently now reading all of Cathy Glass's books chronologically, so I've reapproached this book, and the entire thing is social services not seeing the wood for the trees. Not everybody, but for the most part, as the reader, we can tell very clearly that bad decisions are being made about the care of little Alice. I'm not going to go into any spoiler details, but I will talk a little bit more about what I mean by that. Now, as I said just before, it annoys me when certain social workers or anybody involved in social care can't see what is obvious to the reader and obvious to Cathy. I say obvious to Cathy because it's only usually obvious to the reader if it's something Cathy's pointing out, because that's how it goes. But with this one, even though the entire thing is based on that, it's not annoying that it can't be enjoyed. It's infuriating but gripping, because I couldn't remember. It's been a good couple of years since I read this, and I couldn't remember what the outcome was. And I was infuriated, but so desperate to find out if the right thing was done by little Alice. Obviously, I'm not going to say whether or not that's the case. But Alice has been taken into care. She's 4 years old, and she's taken into care because, well, the reasons why are kind of unclear, and that's part of what's discussed in this. There's a discussion, or quite a few discussions, about whether she should have even been taken into care in the first place. Now, social services will always err on the side of caution. If there's even the tiniest thought that a child is in danger, they will take them into care, either under a Section 20 or an ICO, to be on the safe side, and that's understandable. You don't want to let that one child slip through the net. But it's very unclear to the reader and to Cathy and to a lot of people involved that it's unclear why she was taken into care, because her mother is, I was going to say she's a drug addict. She has got problems with substance abuse. But I don't want to use the word drug addict, because that brings up a certain kind of stigma and a certain kind of person, and her mother doesn't actually fit that. There's somebody in her life who has been a bad influence. When you read it, which I recommend you do, why I'm not using that word or that label will hopefully become quite clear. But Alice has been living with her grandparents, and social services got wind of the fact that her grandparents had been letting her mother see her outside of supervised contact. And they then said, okay, well, we're going to have to take her into care because we can't have this. Her mother snatches her. This is at the very beginning, the first paragraph we learn this, or the first chapter, rather. And her mother snatches her because she doesn't want to lose her child. But it doesn't make any sense as to why her mother wasn't allowed to see her with her grandparents' supervision, because there was no real danger. There was no real threat. And this is discussed in the book, and from the very beginning it just doesn't make any sense to anybody why Alice was brought into care like this. Furthermore, the care plan is for Alice to go and live with her father and her father's wife. Now, Alice had never met her father until very recently, before all of this happened. I can't really go into detail about why or how, because I don't want to spoil it, but again, it made no sense that she would go into care with her father, with whom she has zero relationship. And bearing in mind, Alice does not want to live with her father. I know when it's a 4-year-old, their opinion isn't really taken into account that heavily, but she is abhorrently opposed, absolutely opposing this, and nobody's listening to her. And it's heartbreaking, and it's just completely uncertain what's going to happen. Who will she live with, her father and his wife, her grandparents, her mother, or will she be put up for adoption, which is also raised? And I was just, having, as I said, forgotten what the outcome was. I was just so desperate to find out what was going on. But moreover, I was so frustrated at so many professionals in Alice's life who couldn't see these obvious things, such as Alice definitely not wanting to go and live with her father, her mother definitely not actually being a danger to her, snatching her aside, her grandparents definitely being able to look after her, at least in the short term, while a more substantial care order was put in place. So it kind of annoyed me a lot, but in a way that I wanted to keep reading, not in a way that I had to put it down. It's very rare that a book will annoy me, unless something is badly written and the grammar is appalling. Um, I won't really put a book down because I'm annoyed. But definitely, there are some Cathy Glass books. I think this might have been one of them where the phrase straight away is written as one word. That does stop at some point. I don't know if Cathy got a better editor, or whatever. The publishers, I believe they're published by Harper. But yeah, for a long time, straight away was written as one word, and that really annoys me. But that's irrelevant to my enjoyment of the book. But it's just worth mentioning that if you have read some of Cathy Glass's books and some of the less than quality grammar annoys you, persist, because at some point that just changes completely. I'm assuming that there's a different editor involved. I don't know, but it's worth pointing out that it's always worth persevering. But regardless of that, I Miss Mummy is gripping, it's compelling, it's frustrating, but it's addictive. Definitely one that I really thoroughly enjoyed. And reading it chronologically, I've had a lot of fun with this. Looking forward to the rest.